Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of GBN America with me, Patrick Christys. Now, we have an extremely special guest today. This guy is Cenk Uygur. Now, he is running to be the Democrat presidential candidate. I think a lot of people will know this guy, especially for his work as the co-founder of the Young Turks, which is a very progressive news commentary show, the longest running online news programme as well. A fascinating individual, and we've got a heck of a lot to talk about because we are living in fascinating political times. Cenk, how are you?
Great. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I have to ask, first and foremost, it says here that you were born in Istanbul in Turkey in 1970. Can you actually be president?
Yes. So I believe I can. That's going to be tested in the courts, and we're in the middle of testing that now. So there is a clause in the original Constitution that says that you have to be a natural-born citizen, which I am not. But the 14th Amendment of the Constitution amended a lot of the discriminatory parts of the original Constitution, and it said all persons born or naturalized have due process and equal protection. So I think we have an excellent case that original part of the Constitution has been amended out, and that naturalized citizens are 100% American and have all of the same rights as any other U.S. citizen.
I mean, that would be a massive change to the way that you guys do politics over there, wouldn't it, really? So you'll be testing that in the courts. Why are you running then? What kind of agenda are you running on? What's your ticket? What are your core policies? Go on.
Yeah, so as a progressive, my number one issue is always the donor money. In America, we legalize bribery. You can give literally hundreds of millions of dollars to politicians. It theoretically goes into their campaigns, but they often funnel money out for themselves, besides which they use it for power, fame, status, etc. It's open auction to buy all of our politicians. That's why we keep starting wars in the Middle East, because the defense contractors and the oil companies, et cetera, gain tremendously from it. Our media in America is a joke. They never talk about the donor money, which is what controls about 98% of politics. Now, having said that, these days, there are a lot of pressing issues, for example, Gaza. And I'm a rare candidate in America that says that I would send $0 to Israel if they continue the war and the occupation. I don't think that they're a good ally at all. And I think they've inflamed the entire world against America. In domestic policy, the American people want so many things that are very, very popular. Both Republicans and Democrats agree with: paid family leave, higher minimum wage, lower drug prices. And our politicians are crooks, so they never, ever give it to them, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. So there's a lot to fix. And good news is the American people...
Would you say the same, just out of interest, would you say the same for Ukraine as well? Would you say the same for Ukraine as well? Is it all foreign aid for you, or is it just aid that's going towards Israel?
No, it of course requires nuance, and each situation is a little bit different. So in Ukraine, Russia was the imperialist power that invaded Ukraine, and we had an obligation to defend Ukraine. Now, at this point, though, $60 billion is the latest proposal to send over to them. But you have to understand, it doesn't actually go to Ukraine. It goes to defense contractors, and then they send their used and old weapons over to Ukraine. So, if I'm president, I would get all of the intelligence on that and say, okay, yes, but what do they actually need? And do they really need all this money, or is this just because of the bribes that the defense contractors give politicians?
Interesting. Domestically, then, I'm quite keen to get where you're at when it comes to, well, I would call it illegal immigration. I don't know if you would necessarily call it that, but what's going on at the southern border, etc. I mean, would you just have an open border?
No, and we don't have an open border now. So the Republicans make it seem like there are no rules and anybody can walk in at any time. And I know as you see the videos of people walking in, it feels like that. But no, there are laws and there's border patrol, et cetera. But Is it out of hand at this point? Yes, it is. So people on the left that are denying that are denying reality. We see the numbers. We see the people coming in. So what are the answers? Well, number one, you got to stop the flow. So that's what conservatives never deal with. They're like, okay, let's just punish the people that are coming across. But those folks are people who travel thousands of miles to try to get a better life for their family. They're not the bad guys. It doesn't mean that we let them in, but we don't have to demonize them. Instead, what we could do is a Marshall Plan for Latin America that stops the flow of immigrants, a lot more judges to process asylum a lot quicker, those hearings, so that we can adjudicate who should be here and who shouldn't be here. And that's the right, legal, humane, and efficient way to do this.
Could I ask you on that? Because this is a massive division that we've got here in Britain at the moment about who should be here, what rights people would have if you have entered a country illegally. For you, does that include people who are just looking for a better life, or do they have to demonstrably prove that they are fleeing persecution, war, etc.? I mean, how lenient would you be when it comes to the actual asylum process?
No, I would keep the asylum process as it is, which is you have to actually be fleeing for your life, et cetera, the current standards. So if you're looking for a better life, that's not really seeking asylum. That's what everybody wants. And so there is a legal process to get into the UK and US. For example, my family followed a legal process. Look, would I allow more immigrants in than we currently have in the legal system? Yes. But would I allow less undocumented immigrants? Yes, because we have to try to funnel them into the legal system and do it the right way.
A lot of people from the outside looking in at ultra progressive states or situations over there see things like lots of drug use, lots of petty crime almost being normalised. They do see, as we've spoken about, illegal immigration, etc. They also see things that doesn't please everybody. So, especially when it comes to early years education with children, I know that there's a lot of issues regarding the trans ideology, etc. I mean, is there any evidence, to be fair, that your kind of politics actually make the world a better place? Because it does seem that there's a few examples of places where actually it's not particularly good.
Yeah, that is an incredibly broad question. But yes, I wrote a whole book about why my brand of politics is infinitely better than the closed-minded, right-wing, me, circle the wagons, others bad.
Let me narrow it down a bit. Let me narrow it down a bit, right? So in places where they've kind of tried to implement what I would regard as kind of ultra-progressive policies, a place like San Francisco, for example, it looks like a hellhole. So why would you be able to do something better on a national level?
Okay, so let's address that, because there's a real question in there, or a real issue in there, I should say. So number one, people say San Francisco is a hellhole, and there's some truth to that. On the other hand, it's also the center of the richest place on earth. So they also did some things right. So let's acknowledge that as well. Having said that, the real issue is crime, and it is out of control in San Francisco. And then when you look at that, you go, okay, well, what does progressive mean? Well, there's two branches of progressives. One is the culture wars, social issues, etc., and the other is economic issues. Progressives on economic issues are fantastic, and the American people agree with us overwhelmingly. Well over two-thirds, I bet you, well over two-thirds of any country agree with progressive economic policies. But on crime, the criminal justice reform was meant to do something wonderful, but it went awry. It was implemented wrong. So there's nothing wrong with acknowledging things that went wrong and trying to fix them. So yes, I would change a lot of the things that the left imposed in California. I think that criminal justice reform, again, is really necessary because of the abuse that police do in America. But we didn't correct the abuse. Instead, we let out some criminals, which doesn't make any sense at all, and reduce penalties for actual crimes, which we shouldn't have done.
So on Joe Biden, okay, why is it that a president that you say has done so many great things is trailing in the polls? And can I also ask, where are you in the polls at the moment?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't say he's done a lot of great things. That's why I'm running against him in the Democratic presidential primary. And so He's trailing badly for a number of reasons. Number one, he's 81 years old. 77% of Americans don't think he should run again. But he's stubborn, and like all politicians, he's an egomaniac narcissist. So he thinks, oh, I have to have a second term. It'll be better for my legacy. And what he's doing is he's costing the Democratic Party 10 critical points at a time when we're about to run into the most important election of our lifetimes. And that's usually a talking point. In this case, it's actually true. And democracy actually is on the line with that orange monster, Donald Trump. But Joe Biden is such a narcissist. He's like, who cares? I'll just cost the Democratic Party and America basically 10 points in this effort, because a generic Democrat would do at least 10 points better than him. So I think he's a bit of a mess in a lot of different ways, and I think he's been weak on policies, a weak president overall. Yes, Trump is much worse. That's why I'm a Democrat. In terms of my polling, so I do a talk show. I'm a naturalized citizen. I've got massive disadvantages. Media across the world, like yourself, cover me a lot more than American media does. I'm literally banned on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. If you say politicians are crooks, you get banned from television, because in America, all of the television ads come, not all, but a lot of them come from politicians. So they're in bed with one another, and the television stations are also totally crooks and love the corruption in America. So anyways, despite all of that, in the Quinnipiac poll that they did, the first poll, I got 2%. So 2% sounds like it's low. Of course, under those circumstances, it's actually shocking. It's 1.6 million Democrats in America saying, we want that guy to be president of the United States, even though he has this issue with the naturalized citizen thing, and even though mainstream media has not covered him at all.
With respect, though, your actual politics are out there and have been out there for years, right? And you've had a massive platform for years. So I do understand that, yeah, absolutely. If you've got no mainstream cut through, that's going to be a massive problem for people. Completely, I get that, right? But you have been getting into people's homes and with the advent of social media for a very long time. I mean, again, with respect, is that not evidence that your kind of progressive politics just aren't that popular?
No, absolutely not. And I can prove it to you. So look, when you get into individuals, it all becomes almost entirely a media race. So, and if you don't live in America, it's really hard to understand the ecosystem that we live under. In America, mainstream media is constantly telling people, progressives that poll incredibly well on the issues, are radicals and the worst and totally unelectable, or they never cover them at all. It's not just me. Marianne Williamson, she was up to 13 points, and they refused to cover her. Nikki Haley was at 2 points on the Republican side. They covered her 24 hours a day on every channel. So the media in America has a massive agenda. It's a corporate agenda. And if you don't agree with that, they'll shut you out. So don't be deceived by the numbers that individual candidates get. The minute any of us break out in media like Bernie Sanders did, boom, we rise 40, 50 points because our policies are so popular. When you look at that policies themselves, paid family leave, universal health care coverage, higher minimum wage, they're all in the 70s, 80s in terms of popularity. There's no disputing it. The only reason we don't have it is because corporations buy all of our politicians and say, do not do anything that's popular. And American media then comes in and does marketing and propaganda for those corporations and goes, oh, you don't want to take time off after you have a baby? Well, what they don't know is in the UK and the rest of the world, everyone has paid family leave. Of course you can take time off after you have a baby. But in America, it's so brutal. We don't allow a single day. You have to go back to work the next day after you deliver. No, America lives under corporate rule. I'm one of the people that is telling the rest of the world, help us. You have no idea how much we're being abused by our corporations that have completely bought our government.
One last one with you, and I'm going to ask you to be relatively succinct if you can. Let's say you win, okay? And we are looking at the new president of the United States here, and you're getting sworn in. And Trump did his big America First speech, okay? I'm not going to ask you to rattle off your whole speech, but can you just give me a flavour of what you would say there? You know, you've just been elected, you've just been sworn in. What are you going with?
Yeah, so first of all, as a macro issue, as I said earlier, my number one objective would be to take all the corrupt money out of politics. I would end corporate donations. It's absurd. Every time they give money, it's by definition a bribe. ExxonMobil isn't doing it for their health or for charity. They're doing it to buy the politicians. But there's so many issues to address right out of the gate. For example, drug legalization. In America, over 70% of Americans want marijuana legalized. There's no reason not to do it. It's just ancient politicians like Joe Biden and Donald Trump who go, oh, I don't like it. So I would legalize that on the first day, and I'd fight for paid family leave. It actually polls at 84% in America. We all want it except the crooks in charge. So the minute that I propose it, it would be incredibly popular, and I would point people out, hey, that guy's not voting for it. You know why? Here's the donations that he took from corporations to make sure that he screws you over. I mean, it would be an amazing day to have a president that actually fights for the voters, fights for the average American, and is willing to take on corporations, take on the powerful, take on money. I think the American people would absolutely love it. We just got to get past the media to be able to do it. CenkForAmerica.com, especially if you're an expat.
All right, okay. Now, look, thank you very, very much for your time. Can I just ask you're always writing something. You've always got a book out. What's the latest book as well? Come on, give it a little plug.
Okay. No, I've only got one book. It came out about 4 months ago. Justice is Coming. Yeah. And Justice is Coming is basically what I'm telling you here. Why progressives are in reality incredibly popular, but not in power. Read the book, see the stats. There's 30 pages of footnotes. It's all been verified 8 times over. America loves progressives. We just have to get one of them past the Praetorian Guard of corporate media. And the minute a strong, smart progressive breaks out and mainstream media covers them like they did Donald Trump, we're going to take over this country, and Americans are going to love it. And that's what Justice is Coming is all about.
Look, Cenk, thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope to talk to you again very, very soon right here on GBN America. Cenk Uygur there, who is Democrat presidential candidate. Also, as well, you'll all know him, I'm sure, online from the Young Turks. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, brother.